In today's video, we're getting in touch with our inner Francophile and breaking into the wonderful world of hand-knit berets. And not just on a whim either, but also because I'm planning on being a mime for Halloween. So if that sounds like just your cup of tea, get comfortable and let's dive in. Hello, 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 and welcome to this special bonus ramble. Today is typically a podcast day, but I was inspired to do a little bonus ramble pattern rundown all about classic traditional French berets. And I have some reasons for that, so let me explain. Firstly, I have decided to be a mime for Halloween. And now it may have been misleading in the opening to this video, making you think that perhaps I'm looking for a knitting pattern so that I can knit my own beret for my Halloween costume. And there was a moment there where I thought that I might want to do that. However, I am not planning on doing that with any of the patterns that I'm going to share in this video. And that's because it's actually this beret that sort of inspired this whole thing in the first place. The beret that you see me wearing here is really just an $8 beret that I picked up at a Halloween shop when we took our kids to find their Halloween costumes just yesterday. While we were getting our kids' costumes together, my husband and I started thinking about what it is that we were going to be for Halloween, seeing as we have a Halloween costume party to go to this season. And I really couldn't think of anything. Nothing was coming out, nothing was striking my fancy or inspiring me. But lo and behold, back in the corner of the shop where all of the Indiana Jones fedoras and vampire top hats were, I found a small inventory of classic traditional black French berets, namely this one. There weren't a lot left, but immediately upon seeing that beret, I was inspired by the idea of being a French mime for Halloween. I love good costume, but I also love a comfortable costume, and I knew that if this was something I would want to do, it would be comfortable, but also a lot of fun at the same time. I know, call me a fair weather Halloween costume party goer, but I can't help it, I just happen to be that way. But this hat really did inspire me, so I pulled it off the rack and gave it a good look, and I was so pleasantly surprised by the quality of the hat. I popped it on my head, it's super comfortable, and it really looked great for a costume shop hat. I mean, you can see it here, I'm looking at it now. It looks fantastic. It feels fantastic. It feels very durable. And believe it or not, it's made from 50% acrylic, 50% wool fabric. And the fabric is really quite nice. It doesn't feel cheap at all. But the crazy thing is it was $7.99 US, which kind of blew my mind a little bit considering a lot of the costumes in this place were a little overpriced for what you were getting. This was almost, in my opinion, underpriced for what you were getting. 50% acrylic, 50% wool is pretty good even for higher end shop standards in terms of knit fabrics. And so I was completely impressed, bought the beret immediately, and just figured I would construct my mime costume around this particular beret. So when I brought it home after trying it on in the shop, I tried it on again in my room outside of the context of horror and scary Halloween costumes, and I really took to the shape and the style on my head. Previously, I had avoided berets because my hair was really very short. For the longest time, I had a pixie cut, and for whatever reason, I just didn't feel comfortable wearing this particular shape of hat on my head because I just didn't have a lot of hair going on, and I have a very high forehead. So I don't know what it is, but it just wasn't my thing. I wasn't jiving with the whole idea. But now that I have a little bit more hair and it's roughly shoulder length, I'm finding that I really love this whole look. I'm looking at it on my computer screen and I'm just really digging it right now. And you may have noticed I'm really doubling down on the whole French aesthetic here. That is completely intentional because I'm just going with this. I'm loving the whole vibe. I'm excited to dress up as a mime. I've started assembling my costume. I have some really pretty satin pants, these white satin gloves. I have a new silk scarf to go. It's just the whole thing. And I will keep you posted on that whole progress. But it inspired this video because I realized I like this style of hat, and because I know that this is a very popular style of hat to knit. And I know lots of you have been interested in berets as well because I have received requests over in the Wool Needles Hands tip line to do a pattern rundown for beret style hats. And so the time has come, and it seems very appropriate to go ahead and break into the realm of beret hats. Now, there are a few things that I'm looking for, and honestly, everything that you see with this hat here, and I'm just going to pull up a little bit so you can kind of see I know it's really dark, so it might be hard to see the details, but it's just a really classic, I'm leaning in so you can see. It's just a really classic wool blend beret. It has the little stem on top. It's not too snug. It has some nice elastic, and the shape is really quite perfect. Like, I didn't have to do much work. It just kind of went. And that is going to inform my preferences in terms of what I would be looking for in a beret knitting pattern to knit for myself for casual wear moving forward. And I'm honestly not thinking that this is going to be relegated to the costume box. I think this is going to stay in my regular hat rotation because I love this. It's adorable. So the berets that I have for you guys today kind of follow a particular preference criteria, if you will. These are the sorts of things that I'm looking for and what you're going to see represented in the patterns I share with you in this rundown. However, I have saved a lot of beret patterns, and I'm going to continue saving beret patterns over in my Ravelry favorites bundle called Berets, and I will link to that down below. I'll also add a link down in the first comment under the video so you can find that there if you would like to see some more patterns that I've saved for berets. But the ones that I'm going to be talking about here have all of these particular characteristics. The first one being simple lines. I want the beret to have that real classic simple silhouette, a nice band around the head here, a nice crisp kind of shape going on here. I don't really know what you call this other than just like the crown of the beret, and then the stem on top. Maybe a nice little crown shaping with the spiral seams where you decrease, but nothing too intricate. I want it to be nice and simple. And that leads me to my second piece, which would be minimal texture. Now, there are going to be some berets that I share with you today that have texture, but the texture will be, for the most part, pretty minimal. I feel like a beret has a very expressive shape. When you wear it, you are definitely kind of expressing your style. It's relatively bold and stands out. And so I don't want something that adds on top of that with a lot of noisy texture, even though I think that those kinds of berets are absolutely beautiful. For today's video and these particular patterns and my own personal preferences at the moment, minimal texture is key. I also want the beret to have that classic beret shape. And I feel like this kind of falls in with that clean lines criteria that I laid out in the beginning, but I do want it to have that classic French beret shape. Honestly, pretty much like what you see here. This is my idea of a classic French beret, so I really wanted to have this shape. And last but not least, I want the pattern to require yarn weights of medium or lighter, so nothing heavier. Generally speaking, there is one particular pattern that's breaking that rule. It's just so gorgeous I couldn't resist. But honestly, I'd like to keep it lighter than a worsted weight. Ideally, something between the sport and DK weight to give it a really nice clean silhouette and have it be kind of an all-season hat, except for maybe summer where I just don't wear things like this on my head. Other than that, something that could take me the 9 other seasons of the year. That's kind of what I'm going for here. So clean lines, minimal texture, classic beret shape, and medium to lightweight yarn. Okay, the first pattern I want to share with you is by Sari Nordland. I have another one by Sari because they're both adorable. I couldn't resist. And this one is called the Salut Chérie Beret. I don't know. My French is not that great. At least my French accent is. I could probably put on like a comical French accent, but that would not be very respectful. So I apologize. That is the best that I can do in the moment. I love this one because I feel like it taps into kind of a more casual beret vibe. And I know I'm looking for a traditional French beret look and a French beret style, but I feel like this has it even though it has a rolled brim. But this looks to me like it's pretty versatile. I love it. I think it's a really classic look if you want something maybe that's not quite so structured like a beret, but you kind of want to tap into the beret vibes. I'm loving this. This is actually a free pattern. It is using a worsted weight yarn, so it's a little on the heavier end of kind of the weight of the yarn that I'm looking for a project like this, but I think it works. I think it looks really nice. And it only uses 115 to 137 yards or 105 to 125 meters of yarn, and that's pretty good. It says here, an easy and quick project suitable for beginners. The beret is knit in the round with stockinette stitch from the bottom to the top. It has a rolled up edge on the bottom and an I-cord stem on top. And it's just really lovely. And you can see here in the pictures of the folks who have knit this hat that they're wearing it kind of in a couple of different ways. Some of them have it pulled down a little further, and some of them are wearing it like a traditional French beret, and I just think it's lovely. Yeah, so that is my first, the Salut Chérie beret. My French. Salut Chérie, Salut Chérie. Okay, I didn't realize it, but this next design is breaking one of my rules as it uses bulky weight yarn. But guys, these aren't rules, these are just guidelines, right? You can break the rules, it doesn't matter. I love this because I didn't really think it was bulky weight until I kind of gave it a second glance. The stem on top kind of gives it away because it's a little heavier. But you guys, this is absolutely adorable. This is called the Palette Beret. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I'm not 100% sure. It's by Woolfolk and it uses their bulky weight yarn called Flet Bulky. I'm not sure, but I love this. It has that classic French shape, a little bit more of a rustic look because it has that nubby, bulky yarn, but it looks super cozy and comfortable and it's absolutely gorgeous on this woman. And she's wearing a sweater with that same yarn and I think it's something special. This is an $8 pattern and it only requires 60 to 70 yards or 55 to 64 meters of yarn. And it has 2 sizes. So I'm loving that. So this is the Palette Beret by Woolfolk. Okay, this next one is also by Sari Nordland. I'm not 100% sure how you pronounce this, but it's phonetically it would be Bisbis. I think this one really kind of ticks all of the boxes here in terms of a classic French style beret. It's lovely. It doesn't have much of like a brim. It doesn't have any ribbing going on there, and I like that. There's nothing wrong with a little ribbing for a brim of a hat. However, what I like about this is it doesn't really have much of that. It's very low profile. You can see it almost has like an I-cord edge, or maybe that's just a very delicately rolled edge. Let's see if we can find out some more, but I really love that. The Bisbis beret is worked from top towards the bottom. The beret is started with an I-cord for the stem. Oh no, with an I-cord for the stem, and then joined in the round and increased to the maximum width, and the hat is decreased to fit, and ended with an I-cord bind off. So that is an I-cord bind off, which gives it a really nice, clean look, and I love that. This uses a sport weight yarn, and it only requires anywhere from 306 to 328 yards. Which is more than I would have expected. I wonder if that's because she's pairing it. Do you know, I have a feeling it's because she's pairing 2 different yarns together. Yeah, choose from 2 different yarn weight options. Fingering weight option. Oh, so she has a fingering weight option for a smaller, more tightly fitting beret, whereas the sport weight option will be roomy and drapey. Oh, that's cool. Maybe that's why she's got such a wide range of yardage there. I love that. It actually says get 20% off the Bisbis beret pattern until Friday 20th of February. That might be old. I don't know. Oh, and it's so cute. Very classic. Oh, I love this like eggplant plum purple color. Gorgeous. So that is the Bisbis by Sari Nordland. Okay, this next one's a little on the nose here because of just the name of the pattern, but it really fits. It fits the bill, guys. And this is the French Connection beret. And I love the photography here. I love her whole look. Honestly, that's kind of what I'm channeling in terms of my mime costume. The black and white stripes, the black kind of, what are those? Oh, well, kind of. I have a real nice pair of black leather Oxfords I'm going to be wearing with some black trousers, and really the whole French mime thing is just going to be coming all the way through. But I love this beret because it does have that whole French vibe, but there's something a little bit more special about this. It is textured, but I feel like the texture is minimal. It's a little bit of a seed stitch texture, and I think that's what it is. Yeah, it's just like a real lovely, subtle seed stitch texture, and it's just so sweet. It has a very delicate ribbed brim, which I think looks so nice with clean lines. I love the look here on this young girl with this perfect trench coat, that color. Oh my goodness, hello, how wearable is that? Just so adorable. She's obviously pairing something here with a fuzzy yarn, or she's using Cardiff cashmere, which tends to have a little bit of a halo. So beautiful. This is an Aran weight, which really surprises me because that does not look to me like an Aran weight fabric. It looks much lighter than that. The one that really got me here was that tan one with the young girl in the trench coat. Oh, so lovely. I would wear that with so many things. You guys, it's fantastic. That is the French Connection beret, and that is by Tanya Malokas. I think that's how you pronounce it. moving on. Okay, so this next one is just so stinking cute and I love the name. This is the Poetisa Beret by Gabriella Tremino. It's so adorable. I love it because it has this really delicate halo, and that's because of the yarn pairing. It has a really cute eyelet band that goes around the brim and you can see it there. Very classic French shape. I love the little I-cord stem at the top. The crown decreases are so pretty. This one is great if you want something a little bit more, I don't know, like rustic looking, something that looks a little bit more warm and cozy and less streamlined, but without having to sacrifice that real classic silhouette. This is so fantastic. It's a free download. It uses a worsted weight yarn here, anywhere from 200 to 218 yards, which is about a skein of worsted weight yarn. It's lovely. It says Poetisa is a top-down beret pattern that can easily be knit to have a bigger or smaller crown. The Poetisa beret was inspired by my love of reading. Whether I am reading a book of stories or a collection of poems, I always look to understand the adventure behind the writing. The beret was sparked by a need for a hat that fit both my style and my hair. Don't I know it? Poetisa can be worn in both the cold winter months and during the fresh spring days, making it an easy accessory for when you want to dress up your look just a little bit more. In Spanish, Poetisa means poet, which is fitting for my love of poetry and writing. And as a tribute to my Mexican heritage, I felt it made the perfect name. Very cool. Loving that. So that is by Gabriella Tremino, and it's just adorable, just like the name. Okay, this next beret is a pattern by Isolde Teague. It is relatively new. It's about a year old. It came out in November of 2022. And I think it's called the Seepies beret. I might be I don't know that word. I'm not familiar with this word. Seepies, Seepies beret. I love this. I love that it has a really interesting texture. It is a more kind of standout texture, but because it has this offset rib look, I feel like it tends to be a little bit more subtle. I love the shape of it. It does have that classic beret shape, and the way that she's styling it here in the photos lets you know that it can be worn in a very casual context. She has a leather bomber on with a t-shirt. It just looks fantastic. There's a really lovely folded over kind of brim edge there that I appreciate. I think that that adds a little bit more structure to it, makes it look very professional and finished. And then that really nice brioche tuck ribbing that's happening is interesting. I just love this. It uses an Aran weight yarn, so it's a little heavier than what I would probably spring for this, but it doesn't look chunky. It doesn't look heavy. I think it's because she's using a DK held with a lace weight here, which I guess technically could give you an Aran weight yarn, but I think to me personally that's a little lighter than a standard Aran weight, so the hat doesn't look quite so heavy. But I really, really love this hat. Very classic, still has a kind of a unique standout look, but it's not sacrificing those classic clean lines of a traditional French beret. So this is the Seepies beret, pronunciation, pardon me, and it's fantastic. It says, classic and perfectly on trend, our stylish Seepies beret makes the most of simple texture and clean finishes. You begin construction by making a neat folded hem and then knit from the bottom up in a deeply textured banded rib pattern, which uses half twisted rib to crisply emphasize the pattern. The crown shaping is cleverly hidden between the ribbed bands with paired decreases so that the knit and purl stitch columns are perfectly offset around. And I think that's fantastic. So this is another great option for a very classic clean lines with a little bit of texture beret. Okay, so I can't talk about classic clean lined traditional French berets without talking about beret number 1 by my favorite things knitwear. This beret kind of looks as close to the one I'm wearing as I've seen of all of these. It is very much your classic French beret, and the way that it's being styled here in the photos emphasizes that. Very subtle neutral colors, that classic black. It does have a nice delicate, I would say that's about 1 inch deep ribbing going on around, which I appreciate that. It looks like there might be purl bumps separating the ribbing from the stockinette, but I might be wrong about that. It's just really lovely. Very classic traditional style. I love the tan color. I'm not a big fan of pom-poms on a beret, and that's just my own personal preference, but I really love this black one here. I don't know if I want to knit a black beret. I don't think I need to because I really love the one I have on. But I don't know if I would want to knit a black one, but I love the style of this one, and I imagine it in a camel color, slightly more warm than this tan color that you're seeing here. Ooh, I think that would be perfect. This is a light fingering weight pattern. Now I've read this and I believe that it probably would be a fingering weight. If you have a fingering weight skein of yarn, that would satisfy. She's using in the pattern 2 strands of lace weight Gepard yarn, cashmere yarn, and I believe that that would just kind of wind up being more of a fingering weight. But of course, you gotta check your gauge, find out all of that stuff. But it says here, beret number 1 is a classic beret. It's worked from the bottom up in the round. As the work progresses, you'll either change to double pointed needles or use the magic loop method. Pretty straightforward. It's just a great classic French beret. It's really perfect, honestly. Okay, this next one is also a worsted weight pattern, but it really kind of just falls right in line with those classic beret shapes and clean lines, and that is the Colette Beret by Julie Hayes. I love this one. If you want something that's a quick knit with some worsted weight yarn, using anywhere from 120 to 140 yards, that's not even an entire skein of 100 gram worsted weight skein, you can knock this one out pretty quickly because it's a worsted weight and it's using a size 6 and a size 8 needle. Like, this one is probably something you can finish in like a day and a half. I love this. I love it for its ease of process, but I love the look of it, especially on this woman with her hair that's a little shorter than mine, but I appreciate seeing it on folks with shorter hair. It just looks so sweet. I love that. And it's a free download. But it says it's a casual, sophisticated beret. Colette would be a perfect gift for that friend who always seems to be effortlessly chic, but be warned, if you're like me, you'll need to make another for yourself. Yeah, absolutely. This is just gorgeous. So that is the Colette Beret by Julie Hayes. Well, there you have it, folks. 8 beret patterns that I think would make for a very classic, traditional French beret to add to your wardrobe. I actually pulled some yarn out of my stash prior to filming this because I think that this together would be just a beautiful yarn for a beret. I mentioned that I would love a camel colored beret, and I really do want one. I do not have any camel colored yarn in my stash that would suit any of the patterns that I mentioned here, but I do have this. These are 2 skeins of Fiber for the People yarn in the fleece colorway. It's just a really delicate gray. Oh, gosh, I don't know. I mean, it's so much more than a gray. It's much more warm than just your standard gray. I almost want to say it's kind of like a sand gray color, but what you're seeing on the screen is quite accurate. But these 2 together, paired for like a nice DK weight with mohair in there, in a really lovely beret. Like, wouldn't that be so cute? Ugh. I don't know. I love that. So I pulled these because it kind of is inspiring me right now, and the 2 of them together. This one here, I'll hold it up so you can see it better. This is a 70% fine untreated merino, 20% royal alpaca, and 10% mulberry silk. It is very luxe and lovely. And then this is a 70-30 kid mohair silk yarn, and it's gorgeous. Yeah, so I feel like the 2 of these together would be gorgeous. So those are my thoughts on what would make a really lovely wearable traditional beret to add to my wardrobe, inspired by this really inexpensive wool acrylic beret that I found at a Halloween shop that is going to create or be part of my mime costume. So many things kind of precipitating from one little encounter at the Halloween store, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the mime costume. I'm really looking forward to starting a beret, casting onto a beret, and I invite you, if you are not a member of the Wool Needles Hands Patreon, I absolutely invite you to join. It is a fantastic way to support the work that goes into producing content here at the Wool Needles Hands YouTube channel, and there are lots of perks that come with that, including a lot of additional content in the form of blog posts, audio blogs, additional behind-the-scenes footage from the Fiber for the People studio, knitting vlogs, and one in particular that is coming this week, which is going to be a Cast On Chronicles / Q&A mailbag video where I cast on to one of the berets that I shared here and answer some questions from the Wool Needles Hands mailbag, which is over on the Wool Needles Hands website. It's going to be a fun little video. I will be uploading it to Patreon next week, so you can keep an eye out for that. But yes, I definitely invite you to come join the Wool Needles Hands Patreon. It's a growing community of over 230 patrons, and we would absolutely love to have you. So should you join, thank you so much for your support, and keep your eyes out for next week's Cast On Chronicles Q&A video. Well, that is it for me today, folks. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me as I ramble about traditional French beret patterns. If you enjoyed yourself or took value from this video in any way, please don't hesitate to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and click that bell icon so you can be notified anytime I upload new content here on the channel, which is every Wednesday and every Sunday. Until Wednesday's episode of the Midweek Ramble, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye!